Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you for joining me. It is July 31st. So, I have released just before this one a video on Canadian politics and the province of Alberta's politics and what's going on there. So, for those of you who are interested, take a look at that if you wish. And today we're going to take a look at, as promised, how Trump is doing, how he's going to be doing in August. Certainly July was an absolutely unmitigated disaster for the guy. He's talking about trying to delay the election because he's getting horrendous numbers. I guess the fool thinks, one, that he actually has the power to do that, which he does not. And two, that maybe given enough time, he will get better. Honestly, he would honestly be in better shape if he had the election today, because all that's going to happen in the next 3 months is going to be an acceleration of more of the same horror story that the American people have been living for, well, 3.5 years, almost 4, but more importantly, certainly for the last many months, as he has careened right out of control. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. But before I start that, I've got my handy dandy pendulum. Somebody, I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names and I don't tend to retain them. Somebody, though, sent me a list of 2, 3, 4, 5 House members, Republican House members, and they wanted to, they were asking if these people were going to actually get reelected come 2020. So I'm going to take a look at that. Now, I just want to mention, for those of you who, in a comment section say, well, what about, Idaho, or what about wherever? I have literally taken to going through the comment section with my pendulum in my hand. And so if you have asked that question, you might want to go back and see if I'd answered it. For the most part, I really try to catch all of them, unless for some reason I just can't, but then I make a note of it and try to return to it. So, but I want to tackle these 5 Republicans who are all up for re-election, and let's just see how they're going to do, shall we? So, pendulum at the ready. So pendulum, please let me know when you're ready to talk. And yep, there's a side to side motion. Okay, so the question is, are these people going to be re-elected to their House seat in the 2020 election? Okay. And I haven't done this, so I don't know what the answers are. So I guess we'll all go find out together. Doug Collins. Is Doug Collins going to be re-elected? As of right now, that looks like a yes. And I do caution all of you, the pendulum gives you the most probable answer or the most probable result given the current situation. Okay, so be careful of that, because a pendulum answer is not always going to be set in stone, right? Things can change. So just be mindful of that. Jim Jordan. Is Jim Jordan going to be reelected in the 2020 election? No. And good riddance to him. And here's another one, I'm hoping for a no. Matt Gaetz. Is Matt Gaetz going to be reelected? And that is a no. Marco Rubio. Is Marco Rubio likely? Apparently that's a no too. And let's take a look at Ted Cruz. Mr. Cruz of Texas. Is he going? That's a no too. Okay, so out of the 5 names, Doug Collins got a yes. Jordan, Gaetz, Rubio, and Cruz got no's. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that holds. Because really, really, it is time to get rid of some of these Republicans who have, frankly, debased themselves, following the Trump agenda and following, what he says, even though what he says is insanely stupid. So, there's a price to be paid, right? It's not only true that elections have consequences, it's also true that actions and behaviors have consequences. And I think there's a fair number of Republicans who just may not end up squeaking through the way they hope they can. And to be fair, there are some Republicans in really strong red states that are going to hang on because that's what the state that they're in, the majority of people in the state they're in want. So there you have it. The devil keeps trying to jump out. So let's take a look at Trump in the month of August 2020. Trump, August 2020. Come on down. I have a question. Trump, August 2020. Trump, August 2020. Trump, August 2020. Okay. So, right now, as we look at going into August, he can't see clearly. He is trapped by his own words, by his own behavior, by his own action. He is literally out of control. And even though he feels incredibly restricted, the reality is that nobody can restrict him. And so you have all of these people sitting around watching him, literally, the people in his reelection campaign, the people in his administration, et cetera, and they're just so done with him. They really, really are. Let's be honest. The Republicans got a whole lot of stuff that they've been waiting for and trying to get for a really long time. But right now, he has become such a huge detriment to them that they really are just sort of standing around watching him implode. And the crazier it gets, the more they're going to continue to distance themselves. And the more you're going to see them having very, very little to say about some of the choices he's making and some of the things he is saying. So you can definitely anticipate that kind of pullback. Now, the World card and the Empress card are interesting, because the World card really, in this sense, really does signal a bit of a completion. So does that mean he's going to leave August? No, I don't think so. Not in August. But it definitely looks almost as if they've sort of emptied their bag of tricks. They're just not going to be able to get this guy to pull back, because the more threatened he feels, the more scared he feels, kind of the more he really, really, acts out. And so it feels as if it doesn't matter what he tries, it doesn't matter what he spins, it's not going to, work out very well for him. There really is this sense of loss and needing to walk away that is going to be like hovering around him, almost like wrapping him like in a blanket of loss and defeat and despair and no clarity going forward. So it doesn't appear that whatever he tries is actually going to bear fruit. What it appears is that he's just going to continue to see things not working for him, and his emotions are going to become more erratic, because we know that is what goes on with him, and he doesn't have a capacity to harness them in or rein them in, and he just ends up acting out. And so it appears as if for August, we can really, really anticipate some more of that kind of, the kind of stuff we saw in July. You're going to continue to see it in August. It just really feels so like it's going to become even, God help us all, more amplified. Now, the two cards that are really intriguing to me are these, because for those of you who watch me regularly, you know that the Queen of Swords has become my card for Biden's vice president. And it looks, and apparently he's going to be announcing that, I think, next week. So it appears that whatever this announcement is regarding her is really, really going to cripple Trump. Really going to cripple him. So it feels as if that announcement in and of itself is actually going to really weaken, demonstratively weaken Trump's state. Not only in the polls, not only with Republicans, frankly. There are some Republicans, I think, that are sort of sitting on a fence, honestly, sort of waiting to see who that VP pick is. And it really does feel that that is in and of itself going to deliver a rather dramatic, harsh blow to Trump. And things are really going to almost like start imploding from that point. Yeah, and he's just despondent, he's depressed, he's brokenhearted. I mean, honestly, when you have a president, for the love of God, who gets on television and says, well, people must just not like me, that tells you a great deal about where he is emotionally, where his head is at. And really, it's not in a good place. Now, the thing to remember is, as his behavior continues to sort of amp up, you had, this card is represent, and this card rarely represents the Republicans, but it really does. This is the people who are in his party, who are part of him, who are just emotionally done with the guy. And they're really kind of stepping back. They're trying to create a wall between them and him. They're kind of letting him, hang out there on his own, kind of making his own disasters. So take comfort from that in some ways, because that means that some of the crazier stuff, it's not going to gain any traction, okay? And so that is going to be interesting for sure. It's going to be interesting to watch. Oh, there's that devil card that jumped out finally. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple of appearances where there again is talk or questioning his mental stability, questioning what stimulants he might be taking or what things could be influencing him. Do not be surprised if there is another video kind of on par with him trying to walk down a ramp. That kind of stuff, it really looks like it's going to continue to ramp up. You have kind of his worst instincts and his worst behavior basically being challenged by communications. New communications coming out that bear fruit for not him. Okay. So the more there is this kind of behavior with him, including backroom deals, more information coming out about that. You see the communications, and you see the people, the majority of the people of the United States, starting to really, really rejoice. In some ways, it feels like August is going to be the month where a lot of people who kind of panic every time, some little tiny thing is positive for Trump, it really feels like by the end of August, a lot of those people are going to have just sort of given up and said there isn't a way to to save this guy. And sorry, that didn't come out right. People who are still hanging in there with him, you're going to see more and more people leaving him. And for those of us who kind of do that panic thing when something looks like it's going to benefit Trump, I think we're finally going to get to a place where, like, okay, you know what? He has dug a hole so deep, and he's not going to win. There's going to be, it really feels like there's going to be news that is good for the United States, that is very troublesome for him. Okay? So it's very possible that by the end of August, you really are going to see momentum picking up and falling farther and farther away from him and towards the Democrats and Biden and Biden's vice president. That really is going to be a big blow to him. So it's looking like that, that's not going to be very pleasant for him. Oh, guess not. Okay, here we go, right? The Tower, the Devil, Death. What are you going to say? It really feels like by the end of August, into the beginning of September, there's really going to be an awareness that he's done. And that's where you're going to see even more pulling back of the people who tried to support him or certainly were complicit in allowing that behavior. Speaking of which, I wonder if Ivanka has looked up the meaning of the word complicit yet. Just a question, just gotta ask. But so there's definitely the trajectory, it really feels, based on some of these cards, for August looks really bad for him. And that's saying something considering what July was like. And I think also just energetically, I'm getting the sense that the more he's going to try to spin, particularly the coronavirus stuff, the worse it's going to get for him. I mean, for the love of God, he's like promoting some quack doctor who is all about alien DNA and devil sperm. Give me a break. But I guess, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a quack. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what he says. It's not going to go well. He's always going to find himself rearing back and pulling back, and people are running around trying to correct him and say that's not what he meant. Oh, he was just joking. Brace yourself. There's going to be more of that. Because he's not going to, they just can't get traction. And, I read something very recently that Joe Biden said that he would actually be really surprised if going forward the numbers didn't tighten up between the two of them, so the spread was not as wide. I think Joe Biden's going to have to end up being surprised, because I am not getting any sense that he's going to gain traction. I feel very much like things are going to continue to go against him and in favor of not only Biden, but the Democrats and the way the Democrats want to do things. So this is interesting. It really looks like, wow. Yeah, more stuff is going to come out that he really hoped would stay behind the scenes. And again, it's like more classified information is coming out. More things that are supposed to be kept hidden are coming out. Is there another whistleblower? Possibly. Is there another one of those fabulous sort of exposés? possibly. But whatever it is, things that have gone on in the White House, things that are classified, whatever it is, are going to start coming out again, kind of like a replay. Okay, this is the short answer to what August is going to be like. It's going to be July on steroids. The Republicans overall are actually going to finally completely figure out, except for a handful of them who are so wrapped around Trump's insanity that they can't figure out a way to extract themselves from it. But there's going to be a lot of Republicans who are finally waking up to the fact that there's going to be a reaction to their behavior, a reaction for them allowing the kind of instability of the government by their behavior. The Republican Party, for some reason under Trump, has become almost their own worst version of what they stand for. And for those people who kind of were just going to hang in there till the bitter end because Trump's voters were going to pull them out, they're starting to realize that the number of Trump's voters that are actually out there is not going to be enough to keep them in office. It's not going to be enough to get them through the finish line. And so more and more, you are going to see people just pushing back. I mean, that stimulus package or that aid package for the corona thing, which, they're still fighting and squabbling over like fools. They stuck all kinds of stuff in there, and Trump was demanding this and he was demanding that. And ultimately, Mitch McConnell's having a really hard time. Like, he doesn't even think he can get his people to vote for it. And I'm not sure how much of that is because some of them just feel like enough is enough and they don't want to hand out any more money to people who are in desperate situations. But it really feels like, even Mitch is pulling back. He's saying, well, I saw a little clip of him the other day saying, whatever's in this package should only be about the coronavirus, end of statement. And, so that means that, not more stuff for a wall or the FBI building or whatever other nonsense they're cramming in there. It really doesn't look like it's going to work. And more importantly, people who are in need are really going to start looking at the Republicans and saying, you know what, you guys you're sinking, you've sunk, and you're trying to sink us with you. And this is what's so fascinating, because a great deal of their behavior is so detrimental, so harmful for their own voters. And that is really what is remarkable, because they must be hearing this stuff in their election offices, in their constituency offices, wherever. But, they're going to try to pull back a little bit, but it really does look like there's going to be a price to pay. It's interesting that a lot of Democrats who are challenging Republicans are having fabulous, they're pulling in a lot of money for their campaigns, far more in many cases than the sort of tried and true Republicans who think that they just could coast from election to election to election. So, and speaking of which, don't be surprised if there's more information that comes out about financing, how the money is being spent in different campaigns. It's not only going to be about Trump. It looks like, and it feels like, there's going to be some shenanigans that get exposed for other people who are running for re-election. So anticipate some like fireworks. Yeah. The government is going to be judged. The current government is going to face significant and serious judgments, and it's not going to go well. The White House, people are ready for the White House to be back to something that they recognize as stable and normal and not cruel, not harmful, not dangerous. They want their White House made strong again. And they're looking at what's going on, and there's a sense of, you know what, these guys are so done. And you're going to, again, see that reflected in polling numbers and that kind of thing. So he is not going to be able to recover. I really don't see it. It feels very much like August is going to be a worst case scenario than what he went through in July, which was a worst case scenario of what he went through in June, which was a worst case scenario of what he went through in May. So you can see this sort of acceleration month by month where things just seem to continue to be spiraling out of control. More news about money. And again, things not going his way. I don't know if there's anything going on in the courts in terms of his taxes getting released and that kind of thing, but anticipate more information about his money, his finances, whether it's him personally, the companies, or his reelection. But there's definitely going to be information coming out. And honestly, some of it is really not going to sit well with Republicans. Those people who are making those $10 and $15 donations, that's actually this, whatever's coming out, it's not going to be good on top of everything else. Really depends, really defensive. You know, nobody is going to accuse this man of working hard. Okay, and just how little he is doing, how little he is involved with, is again going to become more and more apparent. And frankly, the blatant maneuvering to satisfy his own financial situation, frankly, it looks like it's going to become even more obvious. Don't be surprised if more stuff comes out about people testing positive in his administration. I think you might actually see a bit more of that happening. It was interesting that Gomer guy, who elected him, who keeps him in office, for the love of God. Anyways, so he tested positive. And then he called all his staff together so he could tell them that he tested positive in a confined office where he was like not wearing a mask. But what was interesting was when Barr was leaving his testimony the other day, he had had a conversation with Gomet, and neither one of them were wearing masks. Wondering if that somehow does not bring COVID even closer to Trump. Because I don't know if Barr's going to get it or got it or whatever, but it feels as if the COVID thing is encroaching on what he considers his safe bubble. And so that should be a little bit fascinating. So again, anticipate more people in his inner circles getting sick, frankly. Just as simple as that. And there comes the anxiety, because he's starting to realize that his behavior outside of the country, his business dealings, stuff that's going on, backroom conversations with Putin, whatever it is, he is actually starting to figure out that justice is coming for him. And so again, what happens when he's threatened, right? He just acts like a fool. His emotions spin right out of control. And it certainly looks like they're going to be spinning out of control faster and faster and faster as he becomes more desperate to hang on to what, honestly, he's already lost. So I could say buckle up, but I'm pretty sure by this point in time, you're already harnessed in as tight as you can get. But again, if you're looking for the short answer to what August is going to look like, you can anticipate July on steroids. And just energetically, I'm getting a message, and they're saying there are going to be some states that are going to, sort of plateau in terms of the COVID thing, and you're going to see some numbers coming down, but you're also going to see states where it is escalating. So August does not feel overall like there's going to be significant headway made in terms of, getting that virus under control, because Trump doesn't want to talk about it. And so in order for him to present this image of being strong and tough, he's not wearing a mask. So the people around him are not wearing masks. His followers are not wearing masks. And the inevitable is inevitable. Okay. I hope you enjoyed that. Enjoy the weekend. If you would like a private reading, there's some information in the box below. You can just send me an email and I will connect with you and give you the information that you need. Until next time, take care, be well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.